Hello, everybody on Facebook. It's Carla Meske with SpiritHealer.com. I am a shamanic healer for animals and people, and I have a website, SpiritHealer.com, where you can learn all about getting a session with me for yourself and or for your animals. And you can learn about Spirit Healer School of Shamanism. This is where I teach shamanism, and I have classes on healing animals, healing people, and deep connection to the spirits with a Celtic tone. My work is Celtic in its basis, and we do a lot of work with the fairies, and we do a lot of work with the old rituals and the old trees and the old ways of my people. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching our video. And this is Shamanic Soul Gardening. We are doing a series of half-an-hour videos on Shamanic Soul Gardening, one after the other leading on up. And today our theme is working in our garden to tend the plants and to tend the plot that we have created, which will mirror our intention for what we would like to create for our lives this summer. And I had put into my core intention in my garden that I wanted to create organization in my life. This, and this. Calendars, time all figured out, to-do lists, stuff going on, staying on top of, you know, that. As a shamanic practitioner, I find those things incredibly challenging, but I have to tell you that one of the skills I have, which other people do not, is I know where I am. So if I go out to the woods with Matt, he's very good at keeping the calendars and keeping the time, but if we turn down a road, he has no clue which way to go when we come back out. He has no idea where he is. I know where I am. This is part of shamanism. Why, you may ask, is knowing where you are part of shamanism? Because when we call in the directions, we call them in and we orient ourselves. And that orientation is an orientation in non-ordinary reality and an orientation in ordinary reality. So we get a strong sense of where we stand and where we are. And I'm talking about that today because as we work with the She, and as we work with the She is a Gaelic name for the fairies, the people who went into the Hollow Hills. As we work with them, we're discovering, thank you, Tara, that the She are living, the fairies are living in that in-between space for which there is no name, in the middle of the doing, in the middle of the becoming of things on our planet. So the wind that it rustles as it's through the trees. Is that right, Tara? Yeah. And it's in that divine interface of things themselves that the worlds are bridged. And it's in that divine interface that the soul garden we are creating in non-ordinary reality blooms to become our intention in ordinary reality. The deeper I go into this and the more I commit to it, the more I realize that it's among the most important things I can do to garden in this world, literally, to plant the trees, to restore the ecosystems, to garden in non-ordinary reality, and to allow the fruition of my life to become an interface between the worlds, so that my work, my teaching, my expression in the world is the expression of the fairies who partner with me. That was as many words as I can muster. Let's call in the spirits. I call the spirits of the north, the east, the south, and the west. The sky and earth. And I ask each of us, please, to connect to the sacred tree whose roots reach into our ancestry and into Earth herself, whose trunk forms the world that we live in and extend from our community, our lives, our earth, our being, whose bough reaches high with shimmering leaves catching the light of the stars and the sun, the photons and the energy from which everything on earth becomes. We carry that light down through our crown, into our hearts spreading outward. We carry the roots of our ancestors, the water, the nourishment, the strength in our bones up from our roots to commingle in the middle and to spread outward and become the life that we lead here now. The old Celts had a way of seeing the chakras. There was one cauldron of our bellies and our legs going down, the root cauldron. And when we focus on it in our bellies, we think of the warming of the earth coming up through our legs, our physicality, our structure, our history, and our bones. Breathe deep now into your belly and feel the warming and the rising of the flame from the earth and the roots beneath you. We ask the moon to join that cauldron and give us our sense of anchor on earth and the power and the pull of the tides. And we draw that power upward now, lifting into our heart, into our cauldron of action, of becoming, of knowing who we are when we're doing, our cauldron of our life and what we make of it. Connect to the sun. Feel her rays filling that cauldron like a yellow bowl of light. And now, raising that power upward into our crown, into our head, we open a star-like cauldron of knowing and connect to the creators who created us, the guides who guide us from the highest realms to the starlight. And we draw that knowing down. We pull that knowledge, that knowing, that impulse to become who we are into our heart. We bring the power of the root up into the heart where all mingle together. And we say these words with our hand on our belly. I am a person. With our hand on our head, who knows? And a hand on our heart, who I am and how I become in this world. Your tree, your ancestors, your becoming, the divine light that whose idea of you becomes you in you now. Welcome home. And so we call ourselves into the center of our sacred garden today. And for those of you who are just catching up, the Shamanic Soul Garden is a beautiful place in non-ordinary reality where we have spirits who teach us how to garden, how to change the landscape, how to plant, how to grow, how to tend, where there's a center. For me, it's a big crystal orb. For you, it might be something completely different, but a center that connects this dimension to all dimensions and to our physical dimension. So a center that is all dimensions contained and possible. And then there are the lands that we are gardening, each of them segmented and contained by an outline like a stone circle, holding an intention that we wish to manifest in our lives. So we've been working on our summer garden, a garden that will have a landscape that will be tended and planted and harvested in order that we may tend, plant, and harvest something that we dream to create this summer. I personally have been dreaming to create organization, and actually getting these videos out, getting little excerpts of successful shamanism experiences I've had out, you know, when people give me a testimonial, making videos, creating new classes for you guys, all of this, you know, doing and getting your done. That's my garden for the summer. What's your garden? Carol, you're here. Would you like to share with us what your intention is for your soul garden this summer?
The discipline to follow the clarity and organization. Sticking to it, Carla.
Stick-to-itiveness.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you went to your garden last time, where did you leave it? How was it?
It was, let me see here. I came through, well, what I came through with was my purpose, which I have known for many, many years. And that came back to me again. And what my purpose is to help others navigate through life. So, or through their journeys, however it helps them. I saw the formation of more stones and more metals in my garden. In the center, the iron pyrite now has copper with it.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, and I saw the greening of different areas in the different quarters. And just as I'm doing this, my garden that I...
Oh, I've lost your audio. You somehow muted you. There you go.
I know. My garden, I started a garden at home with seeds, and they are just flourishing. Just
Yay!
even as, yeah, I never did a garden started it completely by seed. So, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So I think it's reflecting the soul garden.
I think so.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that makes me very happy.
Makes me happy too.
Is it vegetables and flowers?
It's primarily vegetables. I have a lot of perennial flowers, but this year I concentrated on the vegetables.
Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. It's
great. Within this time of COVID, so many of us have decided that victory gardening or gardening in general is a smart idea. And that is, I believe, a blessing of COVID, that we are actually gardening.
Yes.
There's so much benefit to it. I've been reading a lady who is quite an ecologist, and she says that if we each plant one native tree, if every person on this planet planted one native tree, we could turn around global warming.
Wow.
So I've planted 24 on my land in the last year because I know there's so many people who won't. And I'm going to plant another 24 this year. So I'm going to have 40 to 50 trees that I'll have planted on this land. It's a lot of, it's good, it's good. You know, the real reason is it's good for the back to dig the holes, don't you know? Let's take a journey into our garden, and let's begin. When we take this journey, we're going to first go to the sacred garden and reconnect with the teacher that we have met. And if you're brand new to this, just ask to meet a spirit teacher who will be your gardening teacher. And find the center of your garden and reconnect with it. At the center, it's good to periodically remember what your core purposes are, what your core values are. In everything you do in life, what do you wish to be expressing? And compassion might be one. Honesty might be one. Vitality and sharing vitality might be one. Everybody's got their own. But just remember one or two of them and go to the center and reconnect with your purpose and promise that everything we're doing in this garden shall be in alignment with that core virtue. Then meeting your garden teacher, go visit the tree that you planted, the core plant that you planted a couple weeks ago, and visit the garden plot that we're working on right now for manifesting our beauty this summer. There's probably a good chance that you need to do some weeding, you might need to lay out a new plot, you might need to do some tending, and maybe even you'll be doing some harvesting. Let's do it. I will drum for us for about 5 minutes because this is a compressed class and therefore we have short journeys, but you are welcome to take these journeys much longer on your own. And I recommend that you do them daily because shamanic soul gardening is our daily shamanic practice. All right, I'm going to drum for you. Tara, how did your garden grow?
Oh, well, my beans are doing wonderfully. I did some weeding and planted some strawberries in neat rows
Hmm.
because I'm cultivating daily practice of exercise and writing.
Daily practice, exercise, and writing. She plants beans and strawberries in nice straight rows.
Raspberries all along the back fence.
Ooh. We had just gone riding. She's doing it. She's doing it. She picked the poo in the yard and she rode and she's doing it. Carol, how is your garden growing?
It is growing well. Little critters popped up, little chipmunks, squirrels. Don't forget us.
Right.
And I think for me, that's symbolic. Well, that's true, but symbolic for don't forget the details. Don't forget the small stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I learned that when we're honoring the little critters, the other thing that's happening is we're going to find that it's easy to remember the details and the small stuff.
I hope so.
I really do believe this is how this will go, that next week we'll say, wow, it was so, I just found that I was really much more in control of those things, that these were happening.
Yeah. Also share harvest.
Mm.
Be joyful. And then I saw the ripples of the garden spreading out, almost like when you drop a pebble into the pond.
Yes.
Yeah. It just, I could see the ripples of green going out.
That is one of the secrets of this, that as we are creating something with a beautiful intention in our own lives, so it becomes in the world that we are connected to.
Good.
So it becomes, and so our seed spreads, and so the ripple flows. That is why this is an important practice. It's not a personal practice. It is a personal practice, but it's a community practice as well.
I agree.
They say that our thoughts hold the world together when we think our beautiful thoughts. And a soul garden is a beautiful thought.
Sit still.
I went into the center and I've reconnected with what is the core value right now that I'm really working with to make sure I am that it really does get infused into everything I do, which is to trust myself, to be trustworthy, not only to others, but to myself, to not betray myself. Because self-betrayal is such a easy, creepy thing. And, you know, if I just, and then grandmother said, I'd like you to go through and receive a seed. So I received a seed, and it was the flower, the feminine flower of a squash. You know, they've got all those curly things inside, not yet seeded, just the flower herself. And I took that to the garden where I'm working on my intention for the summer, and Ram, who is my English soul gardening master, takes the seeds, and he said, he took the flower and he said, this is a gift for the bluebirds who are in this tree. And he showed me a tree that had been planted and it was flourishing, and it was over the boundary of this garden and beyond. So like you're saying, this is reaching outward into the community and the worlds beyond my scope. And we fed that flower to the birds, and the birds took them and fed them to their baby birds in the trees. And then I have 4 plots in the garden. It's like a circle with 4 pie wedges. Each of them has its own border, and there are paths in between. It's like the cross, like the Celtic cross. And he showed me that the first plot we had planted last time, the seeds were slow to gain root, but the crystals around the edge were shimmering with colors. The second plot he had planted, and I had not known that, but he had planted, and it was grass, and it's wavy like grain, you know, beautiful wavy grain. The third plot, not yet really to do much with, but if I walked past it, there was a garden path leading outward. He said, next time I'd like people to begin to build structure. I'd like to do structure next time. So that will be down this path. But right now we're building a rabbit hutch. So we built a rabbit hutch. And I thought, you know, rabbits can live underground. Why do I have to build a hut? And he said, honey, you have no idea what's coming this summer, and we need to make protection against it. And, you know, he's right. Tara and I live in the #1 hotspot for COVID in the world. Isn't that special? Yeah, Arizona, #1 right now as an area that has a geographical boundary that gets measured. We have the highest per population rate of COVID, and it is not slowing down at all. So who knows what else might be in store. He said that we'd have a heavy rain and monsoon season, but he said, I want you to we want to build the wall up around this summer so that you are very seriously protected. So we did that. And the rabbit hutch is to protect all the wildlife, all the bunnies, everyone who lives in this community to be protected. And finally, in the last plot, he showed that he had erected, well, we together erected this big metal pole that became like a circus tent with a shade cloth over it. And we put in 1 million starts, little starts. And he said, through this time, you will be laying the groundwork for yourself and for others, for the plants, the trees, the food, the everything that will be coming out through the next several years. That is what we're doing this summer. So I'm excited about that. And I'll be sharing every bit of it with you. So, Carol, thank you. Facebook friends, thank you. Tara, thank you.
Thank you.
And we will be back.
Carla.
So Wednesday,
Mhm.
back to Wednesday at the same time, 9 a.m. Pacific, Shamanic Soul Gardening.
Thank you.